Hey everyone, so today's video is another fun little makeup tag, and I have seen a few creators do this, but I'm not sure who originally created it. So this is definitely not my original idea. I was inspired by other creators that I saw do this, but basically it is just going to be picking one product from each category if I could only keep one product from each category. So a couple of them I don't actually have it with me because I have used them up, and then also some of them you'll see that I don't really pick anything for it, specifically like mascaras. I don't have a favorite mascara. I kind of just use whatever I have, and I haven't really found a holy grail mascara yet. So yeah, I think it's pretty much just that category I didn't pick anything out for, but let's just go ahead and get straight into it. So the first one is a primer, and I actually don't have it with me because I did finish it off in my project pan pretty recently, and it is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Hyaluronic Hydrating Primer. That one from the Pretty Fresh line, but I do really love that primer specifically because I have more dry and dehydrated skin, so I really love that, especially for the hyaluronic acid for kind of those skincare benefits in a primer. And the type of primer I like is a hydrating primer. I find that like pore filling primers don't really do anything for me. So if I had to pick one primer, it definitely would be the ColourPop Pretty Fresh Primer. Now for foundation, I chose the Oma Beauty Say What Weightless Soft Matte Hydrating Foundation, and this is the newest foundation in my collection, but I really love this. And also most of these products I am wearing on my face today. I do have this foundation on right now, and I find that this can be sheared out a little bit to get a nice light medium coverage, but you can also build it up to get a nice full coverage look. And even when you build it up, it doesn't look cakey or dry. It still looks really natural and just like your skin. It just provides a lot of coverage, but you can also shear it out. And I find that it doesn't stick to my dry patches, especially now because my skin is getting a lot more dry when we're going into the fall and winter and it's getting a lot colder. So I find that this is really good for my dry skin. And I also do get a bit oily in the T-zone, but I find that this is a really natural satin finish. It's not too matte, but it's also not too dewy, so I find that's the perfect in between, and I feel like this would work for a lot of skin types as well. So this is currently like my holy grail foundation, and I haven't even used this very much, so I don't know if this is like cheating. I mean, I guess it's not cheating because I do really love it, and this is the one I would choose to keep if I could only keep one. And then for concealer, I also chose the Oma Beauty Stay Woke Concealer. Again, this is the newest concealer to my collection, and I just really love this. I find that, well, obviously all concealers are going to crease under my eyes because I do have those fine lines, but I find that this doesn't crease as much as other concealers, and also, I find that I don't even need to set this. I almost like it better the way it looks when I don't set it. And same with the foundation as well. I almost like not setting it, and I feel like I can get away with without setting it. But this concealer as well also looks really like healthy and glowy under the eyes. It's definitely not a matte concealer. It gives a little bit of glow, so it just looks really pretty and natural underneath the eyes. So I do really love this. This is probably my favorite concealer at the moment. Then for powder, I did choose like a pressed powder, and I also chose a finishing powder. So this is the Catrice Cosmetics Prime and Fine Mattifying Powder, and it does say this is waterproof, but I really like this just to set down my T-zone because my T-zone does tend to get a little bit oily, so I like to use a mattifying powder just in the center of my face to keep my oils controlled. And then I like going around the perimeter of my face and kind of setting the rest of my face with a finishing powder. So this is a more glowy powder. This is the Milani Prep Set and Glow Illuminating Transparent Powder. And I actually hit pan on this, spoiler alert, for my Fall For You project pan. But I did hit pan on this today, and I was really surprised because I didn't think I was going to, but I just really love this powder. I do use it to set my whole face, and normally finishing powders you would use as a finishing powder, not really as a setting powder, but I find that this isn't too glowy or dewy, and it's not glittery at all. It just gives a really nice natural, almost satin finish to the skin, so I find that I do like setting down my whole face with this. Now we're getting into cheek products. So for bronzer, I chose my one bronzer to be the Milani Silky Matte Bronzing Powder, and this is my favorite bronzer at the moment, and I just really love it. It's almost like a good contouring shade, but it kind of works as a contour and a bronzer at the same time because it's probably a bit more cool tone than some of my other bronzers, but I find that it's not too cool toned. It also has that warmth to it where it can warm up the skin as well. So I like this as a bronzing and contouring type of powder, and obviously it is matte, and I figured that if I want a more glowy look, I can get that more with my blush products or like that finishing powder. So I found that this was the one that I really wanted to choose for my only bronzer, and this blends out super easily. I haven't had any issues with it, and I just love the way it looks on my cheeks. I do have this on today, but I did also add another contouring powder just because I couldn't help myself, and I was trying to use all my Project Pan products. But then for highlight, I had to choose my Anastasia Beverly Hills Amrezy highlight, and this is a really, really beautiful highlight. Probably my favorite, one of my favorites in my collection. Well, obviously, or else it wouldn't be in this video. But it's just the perfect like light champagne color, and I find that it's not too gold. It's almost a good in between, so it can kind of go with every look. I do have this on my cheeks today, so I find that it's not too warm tone. It could go with pretty much any look, and you can also shear this out to get a really easy like everyday natural look, and it doesn't look too intense if you just use the tiniest amount, but you can also build it up to be a blinding highlight. So I really, really love this highlight. This is definitely probably one of my favorites and holy grails. And then for blush, I don't know if this is cheating because I technically chose two, but they are different categories because I chose a powder blush and then also a cream or liquid blush. So for my powder blush, I chose the Essence Satin Touch blush. This one is in the shade Satin Love, and this is the more neutrally color. So I figured that this could go with pretty much any look. It's not too warm, it's not too cool. It does kind of lean a little bit on that warm side, but I find that it would also pair well with cool tone looks. And also this is a satin finish blush, so I find that it's not too matte, it's not too glowy, so this is just the perfect in-between product, and I would have no issue wearing this every single day. And then for my liquid blush, I had to choose my Flower Beauty Blush Balm in the shade Cinnamon. This is just like my perfect everyday go-to shade, and I like that kind of warmer shade for everyday and for most of my looks. So I couldn't resist, I just had to include both of these blushes. Now for lip products, I did technically separate it out into 4 different lip product categories. So I have a lip liner, a liquid lipstick, a normal bullet lipstick, as well as a lip gloss. So those are kind of the different categories, or at least how I think of it. So for my lip liner, I chose the ColourPop lip liner in the shade Oh Snap, and this is probably my favorite lip liner, at least the shade, and I haven't found anything like this, like a dupe for it, but ColourPop is pretty inexpensive, and I do really love this formula. It's just the perfect like My Lips but better color, and it's also a little bit more cool toned. So this is kind of like my cool toned natural everyday option. And then for liquid lipstick, I chose one of the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams. This is in the shade Zurich, and this is just a really pretty nude peachy color. And this is what it looks like next to that lip liner. As you can see, that lip liner does look a little bit more cool toned. And then for my bullet lipstick, I chose the Uomo Beauty, again, their bullet lipstick in the shade Coretta. And this is just a really pretty, more pinky shade. So I have my cool tone shade, a little peachy nude shade, and then a more pinky nude shade, because really, I pretty much only wear nude shades on my lips, especially for every day, so I find that I didn't need to include any kind of bold lip, because the majority of the time these are like what I would reach for the most. And then for my gloss, I did choose the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bomb in the shade Fussy. So this is what all of the lip products look like next to each other, and Fenty Beauty is one of my favorite lip gloss formulas, so I figured I just had to include this as my lip gloss, and I love that it gives so much shine to the lips, and it just looks so beautiful. And this is a really pretty natural everyday shade, and that's like a built up swatch of it, so it looks a lot more pigmented there, but when you apply it to the lips, it is super sheer, so this barely shows up. It doesn't really change the color of your lipsticks at all, so I do really love this gloss, and it's perfect for every day. And now moving into more eye products, I did choose one eyeshadow palette, and I also allowed myself to choose one kind of single shadow product. So I guess I'll start with this single shadow. For that, I chose a ColourPop Super Shock shadow because I feel like I would just have to have one of these in my collection. This is the shade Birthday Girl, and mine is a little bit dried out. And it's so sad that these don't last very long because I feel like all of my ColourPop Super Shock shadows are starting to get dried out, and I did declutter them like probably less than a year ago. I decluttered tons of them, and obviously I kept the ones that were still good. Oh my god, there is a spider over there. I'm just gonna ignore it and pretend like it's not there. But yeah, this is a really pretty neutral shade. It's not too warm, but it's also not too cool. So I find that it goes with every look, and it's perfect for every day. But this shade is sadly not available anymore, and this is probably like one of my favorite Super Shock shadows, but it is starting to get dried out, so I feel like I will have to go through my Super Shocks and get rid of a lot of them soon. But I definitely would repurchase some of these, at least have one of them in my collection at a time. And then for my one eyeshadow palette, I had to choose my Anastasia Beverly Hills Jackie Aina palette. I just find that this palette is so versatile, and this is what I have on my eyes today. Besides the gold shade in my inner corner, this is the ABH Sultry palette, the shadow that is in my project pan right now. But the majority of the colors on my eyes are from this palette, and as you can see, they have a good variety of shades in this palette. You can definitely get some warm tone looks with these like warm transition crease shades. Even though this is meant for darker skin tones, I find that I can pull it off pretty easily. The looks can end up being pretty intense, especially if you have a lighter skin tone, but you just have to go in with a lighter hand. But this would also be super beautiful for deep skin tones as well. And you can play with some color with these like reds, purples, and these pink tones, as well as this like pretty green tone right here. And you have some cool tones over here as well. So you can create cool tone looks, warm tone looks, pretty much anything with this palette. There are literally a million different looks you could do with this. Right now on my eyes, I did use the shade Supreme as my sort of transition shade. Then I deepened it up with the shade Pinker on the outer corner, and then I also deepened it up even more with the shade Credit right here. And then I put the shade Sponsored kind of on the outer portion of my lid. So that is what I have on my eyes today. And I also blended some of those mattes underneath my lower lash line. And I absolutely love the way this look turned out. And I find that I really love pretty much every look I do with this palette. I've never created a look that I don't like with this. And there are just endless possibilities with this, so I feel like if this was the only palette in my collection, I wouldn't get bored of it, and it's definitely one of the most versatile palettes in my collection. Now, you guys know I don't really wear eyeliner pretty much ever, but I did choose one eyeliner for this video just for the fun of it. So the one I chose is the Appeal Gel Liner in the shade Forest Green, and I have been loving this recently. I have mentioned it in a few videos, but this is just the perfect, exactly what it says, forest green color, and I find that green is a super wearable color, but it's also a good way to add in some color without it being too out there. So I really love this liner, and the shade of it, it almost looks, it doesn't look black, but it looks like it's colorful while still being natural, so I feel like it's really easy to pull off. And I just love putting this on my lash line and smudging it out. It looks so beautiful, so I just had to include this. And I feel like if I had one liner, it would be a kind of colorful liner. If it wasn't like a brown, which I feel like is more boring, and I could just use a brown shadow if I wanted that as liner. That's why I didn't choose a brown liner. I feel like it would be a more colorful shade like this if I only had one liner. Okay, now there is a family of spiders, but we're almost done here. So the last product is a brow pencil, but this is the NYX micro brow pencil, and I just really love this. It's super thin, which is how I like my brow pencils to be. This is probably one of like the most thin pencils that I've found, so I definitely will repurchase this, and I'm almost done with it, but I'm also trying to go through some of my other brow pencils as well. So I just really love this. The formula is great. The color is like pretty much perfect on my eyebrows, and I really love this. I didn't choose a brow gel just because right now I'm currently using the NYX brow gel. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but that one is not my favorite. The brush is kind of just too big. So if I had to choose a brow gel, it would probably be the ColourPop one. I also really like the Essence brow gel, which is even more inexpensive. So probably either the Essence brow gel or the ColourPop one, but I'm not too picky with my brow gels as long as the brush isn't too big and it doesn't get all over the place. And eyebrows is something that I can kind of switch up, and I'm not too picky with the products that I use. And I think that is everything. I also didn't choose a setting spray though, because again, that's something I'm not too picky about. I just kind of use whatever I have on hand because I pretty much just use setting spray to kind of set down the powders on my face. But now that I'm thinking about it, the one setting spray that I would have is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh setting spray, just because that gives a little bit more dew to the skin. Again, it does have hyaluronic acid in it, so it's a little bit more hydrating. So that is my favorite setting spray, and I definitely need to repurchase that along with the Pretty Fresh primer at some point in the future. But yeah, so that is definitely the setting spray I would purchase now that I'm thinking about it, but I don't have that right now because I did finish it off a while ago. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing all these products and kind of what I would pick for each category if I could only have one product. So these are really my holy grail products that I absolutely love, and some of, or pretty much all of my favorite products in my collection for each category at least. Let me know what other types of videos you guys would like to see from me, if you want to see more kind of favorites types videos, or you like my project pans. But that is it for today, and if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I do post new videos 3 to 4 times a week, so if you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified every time I post. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.